In a lot of settings and campaigns, your deity, your alignment, and your anathemas can kind of seem like a series of tick boxes to ensure that you can heal your friends at the right time, use your spells, your skills, your feats for power without much of a connection to the deity itself. If you want to bring that faith and that connection of a character to their deity to the forefront of your setting, the Nicholas Potter's Divinity Unbound Paths of Faith might just be the thing to bring that to you. My name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into Divinity Unbound Paths of Faith. So in this first preview, I wanted to cover Nicholas Potter's Divinity Unbound Paths of Faith. A little bit about him. So he is an author in his own right. He's already written a short story for Pathfinder Infinite called The Man the Crow Follows. A former RPG superstar, strange and unusual winner for Bloodsport Remnant, Furnace Newt, and Zweiblade Guardian. Runner-up entry in the recent Brewmaster equipment competition for the Vanth Feather, and contributed to the Vaults of Vitruvius release on Pathfinder Infinite. I'm going to include links to all that below in the description, so go ahead and take a look and feel free to peruse whatever content you can find from Nicholas. Now, Divinity Unbound, Paths of Faith, is scheduled for release on July 1st on Pathfinder Infinite and will be available for $5.99. So let's go ahead and get into this preview. So if you've seen any of my videos, you should know that I love the nitty-gritty, the minutia of the rules, and how they can work not only into the game, but into role-playing. So I'm approaching this preview in that same vein. Am I going to tell you from a min-maxing standpoint if the Exalted archetype is better than the Blessed one in the APG? Probably not. There's better people out there for that kind of analysis than me, but what I'm going to tell you is if I'd want to play it. So, in the style of the Treasure Vault, we are led through this particular work by the Grey Earl. The Grey Earl is a scholar and a traveler exploring the Inner Sea region as he discovers and chronicles the face of the region. The Grey Earl promises to us that this is only the first of many volumes, so I'm hoping there's going to be more from Nicholas on the way. And in this one, we're going to cover how individuals venerate their deities rather than the deities themselves. The Grey Earl and this character is going to be with us not only at the beginning, but through the various sidebars on the module. And he is really well written, providing a little bit of color throughout the module. And it really kind of highlights Nicholas's writing style and how it really helps. Just as a little side note here, I did run this through an AI detector, and it kind of came across as 100% human written. So kudos to Nicholas for that. Now, here is what you are getting with Divinity Unbound Paths of Faith. It's a way to bring in some of the faiths of Golarion from Pathfinder 1E into the current world of Pathfinder 2E and the systems that are involved in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. As they're different systems, the conversion is not quite one for one, but in my mind, it really makes sense. Start off with, you get a conversion of the deific obedience feat made into a skill feat requiring an expert in religion at a minimum. It functions as a monthly obedience as opposed to the daily obedience that it was before, to seek the boon or curse from a deity for a period of a week. The possibility of a boon or curse balances pretty nicely to me, and as someone who does like to role play, I would almost be just as happy with a curse or a boon as to what you could kind of sink your teeth into. And I can also see a bit of strategic use of this, depending on where you are in a campaign, to time the potential boon or, unfortunately, the potential curse that you might get from doing this particular observance. There are two optional rules that are presented: deific standing and deity's domain. Deific standing is to me, a spectacular way to bring the presence of a player's deity, specifically for clerics and champions, and the potential of losing your powers, but to any class that might rely on their deity's intercession, really into focus. Basically, what this means is you have done something that has garnered the attention of your deity, and that could be good, or it could be bad. And it will affect how hard or easy your deific obedience might be based on the attitudes of the deity to you at the time you do it. So you can increase or decrease your standing. It will make those either easier or harder depending on where you are at the time. Now, deity's domain is dependent on the location, be it the region, possibly planes of existence, and how that location might influence the effect of the deity's power on you based on how suitable the location might be. So if you are a follower of a war god, then the battlefield might be great for you, but an inner city market might not do much for you. Or maybe you're in the wrong plane in order to really gain the full power of your deity. I think it's a very creative use of the locations and situations that you might find yourself in, but it's going to require more than a little bit of planning by a GM to know in a particular location, in a particular adventure path or homebrew setting, how strong a player's deity might be in that specific location. But if you are willing to put in the work in order to set that up, it can lead to some really, really good character and setting depth to that particular world. There are 4 archetypes, 3 that are based on prestige classes from Pathfinder First Edition, and one that's wholly new, and I kind of really like that one. So what they're bringing to the table is Evangelist, Exalted, and Crusader. Now, the Crusader in 1E was known as the Sentinel, but that's already in use, so it's been renamed to the Crusader. I'm not going to go too far into the mechanics of these because I think you should buy the module. But by taking the dedication feats, which is just a feat 2, the boons of the Pathfinder 1E prestige classes are converted into Pathfinder 2nd Edition archetypes and those kind of feats. They make sense within the current system and allow you to bring that flavor, if you liked it from 1st Edition, into 2nd Edition. And there is one archetype that is Nicholas's own, which is a Heraldic Hopeful. It's a new archetype that can lead to actually becoming a celestial divine herald to a deity themselves. The archetype is only available at higher levels, starting as a 12th level dedication feat. There are also 3 characters that are introduced that are basically one of each of the main archetypes, which is Evangelist, Exalted, and Crusader. And they show you what the 3 formerly prestige classes look like in Pathfinder 2nd Edition with their stat blocks. Also, something I really like here, there is a full narrative style background written up for the character before you get to the stat block that really helps you think about what type of character would fit into these archetypes. You have Cosimo Henderthane, an evangelist of Asmodeus at 10th level. Eric Manea, Exalted of Serenay at 10th level. And Volka, a Crusader of Rovagug at 12th level. There's also a short story that features these 3 characters, illustrating kind of a little bit of the intangibles and the types of people that would be these archetypes, and it's quite enjoyable in and of itself. It takes about 3 pages. It's a really well-written story. Now, I guess to kind of put a summary on Divinity Unbound Path of Faith, I'll go over kind of the things I really liked about it, and then some things that I'm not going to say I didn't like, but are I can see being a little bit harder to implement. So it's a really spot-on conversion of some of the Pathfinder First Edition deity elements that bring faith of a character to the forefront of what they're trying to do. To a role-playing forward person like myself, I see this as a boon because I can think that even a deity curse would be great material to work with, and it prevents the deity from just being kind of that checklist that I was talking about at the beginning, an afterthought and a list of to-dos and to-do-nots that they can sometimes be. I really like where the Heraldic Hopeful archetype is placed. It is an aspirational archetype, and archetypes like this, or even the thought or hope of you as a 4th level cleric thinking, I want to be my deity's herald. It is really something you could sink your teeth into. The optional rule, deific standing, is not only color, to a character's journey with their deity, but could give you honestly strategic benefits or disadvantages based on your character's real action, observances, and when they choose to do the observances. Something else I really liked, I think Nicholas's background in writing kind of shows, and I don't want to make this too flowery either, but the introduction's very well written to the level of what you'd find in some of the Paizo books. The character backgrounds are really well done and in a narrative style that makes it interesting to read. And the short story really shows his work not only as a TTRPG contributor, but as well as his work on fictional work. Some of the things that I think would be a little bit harder to implement, deific demain seems like it would be a lot of work for a GM to do properly to determine what campaign settings or where in established settings it would fit and what suitability ranking each one of those particular settings would be. But if you're willing to put in the time and the work, it could really shine. It could bring a whole lot to your characters that you are trying to GM for. And kind of like the lawful good characters in general, but specifically lawful good champions, I could see the Crusader archetype being a bit hard to play or a bit stiff, depending on how the party composition is and what your setting is. And once again, I'm not going to say it's harder than playing a champion lawful good with the same restrictions and the same type of flavor, but you really do need a player who can live up to that, as well as the campaign setting to really make that shine. Well, this was my first preview of an independent creator, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Nicholas Potter's Divinity Unbound, Paths of Faith. There is a lot of work that was put into it. I hope you enjoyed this particular preview, and if you do, please feel free to like, subscribe, or hit notifications for any further ones coming online. But also follow Nicholas. Go to Pathfinder Infinite, see what else you can do, see if there's something you might like on there from Nicholas or any of the other independent creators, and see if we can't grow this community and support them as they try to make our games better. So with that, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.